is Kay Byfield at ArtSpeaks Studio in Dallas, Texas, with your ArtSpeaks Studio moment. And today I'm going to talk about eye tracking. The reason I'm discussing this today is I recently read a really terrific composition book that was trying to help artists understand better how to create a path for the eye of the viewers when they look at a painting. My problem with the book was not with the points that he made about composition. It was about the terminology he called that kind of eye tracking movement. And this is very confusing because movement, when we're talking about composition, is when you depict movement in the subject matter, or you actually make the subject matter move in your artwork. So I did a video about this not too long ago, and I've given a great deal of thought to movement in my own work, but eye tracking and movement are not the same thing. So today I'm going to talk about eye tracking, which is actually the goal of composition. Movement is one of the principles of design that artists use both in two-dimensional and three-dimensional works. In 3 dimensions, movement can be either implied movement where it's suggested that something is moving, or the artwork can actually move. Think of Alexander Calder's mobiles or other kinds of artworks that move. However, two-dimensional artists must create movement that is implied movement. And in my earlier video, I explained that there's 3 ways to do this. You can either stop action, you can blur, or you can have repetitive shapes. And most artists who movement is an important part of their art will choose one or use several of those approaches. But movement isn't eye tracking. Eye tracking is on the part of the viewer, and movement is something that is in the artwork itself. So let's talk about what makes us like a particular artwork. As we all know, this is subjective. Different people like different pieces. But an artist wants to know how to make you respond to the work of art they've created. So this is really critical information for artists. And what scientists and others have discovered is that if you take an artwork and you expose it to viewers who have a similar experience level, that they will, in general, agree with the assessments of the work with each other. Notice I used the term similar level of experience. And this is because how much experience you have with art, your cultural background, your own experience in life, all of those things are factors that are critical to how much you will like a particular piece. Which brings us back to visual tracking. Visual tracking is a technology that's been developed that helps scientists and others measure where the eye travels around a particular experience. It can be they use visual tracking in museums to see what artworks draw people and how they look at those particular artworks and how they move around the museum. They use visual tracking in web development to see where the eye is drawn within a web page and usability studies and so forth. But they also use it when looking at art. And remember, as I say over and over again, the goal here is for the artist to create an artwork that engages you for the longest possible time. So visual tracking measures the eye movement, but it also measures how long you stay and look at the piece. Studies show that viewers engage with artworks based on their own experience. So if you have experience with the subject matter, you're drawn to that subject matter. If you know something about the materials and the techniques, then you're drawn to the way that the artwork is painted. And if you have aesthetic training, then you tend to look at composition and design. All of these things have been shown to be true. And it's also true that those factors will definitely impact the visual tracking. Psychologists note that infants are attracted to bright colors because they can't see that well right after birth, and to faces because their whole well-being is dependent on creating a connection with their caregivers. And those attractions to bright colors and to faces will persist into adulthood. Once we learn to read, we are also attracted to symbols because we read those and we understand those, and so those are also very attractive. Artworks that incorporate bright colors, symbols, and faces, therefore, are going to attract our attention without anything necessary in terms of using the elements and principles of design. However, if an artist really wants to direct, especially more sophisticated viewers, to move their eyes around the piece and be more engaged, then they need to be more interested in how they establish those compositional elements in order to create a pathway for the eye. In the Gurney Journey weblog by Dinotopia creator James Gurney, he discusses eye tracking in a way that I couldn't find almost anywhere else. And I agree with him that the makeup of the viewer and the way the artwork is designed determine the attractiveness of the artwork and how engaged the viewer will be. So when the viewer looks at the artwork, they bring to the piece their own level of experience and their interest in the subject matter that's being presented. James Gurney refers to a study by Alfred Yarbus done in 1967, where Yarbus compared the visual tracks of a number of viewers looking at a painting by 19th century Russian painter Ilya Repin. Yarbus noticed that while the tracks were all different, they were also quite similar. Visual tracks vary the most when the viewers have different levels of experience with art. A study by Nodine, Locher, and Krapinski, published in 1993, found that viewers with art training tended to focus on the design and technical execution of the work, and untrained viewers concentrated on the representational elements of the work. Less experienced viewers look for narratives and subject matter, and those with art training look for execution. So less experienced viewers look for a story. They look for a subject that appeals to them: babies, horses, pastoral scenes. And those with art training look for the way that the artwork is designed or the way that the materials are handled. My point is that artists want viewers to engage with their artworks, but that engagement is somewhat determined by what the subject matter is. And the artist can't know whether people like horses or babies or flowers. That means that the artist only can design the painting well and execute it well to support whatever the purpose of their artwork is. That's why it's so important for an artist to understand how to use compositional principles to move the eye around the painting for those viewers who go beyond the specific subject matter to actually look at design and execution when they assess an artwork and engage with it. That is the way that an artist will get the best response and the longest relationship with an artwork. If you want to be seen by people who have experience with art as being a good painter, you need to develop your compositional and technical skills, as well as picking subjects that appeal to people. That's what's necessary to be successful as an artist. I hope this information is helpful to you. I hope you'll join us again in a future ArtSpeaks studio moment. And in the meantime, happy painting.